This object is way bigger than 3I Atlas. It's way brighter.
Astronomers have just confirmed the approach of an object so massive, it makes previous interstellar visitors look like toys. Detected on September 12, 2025, by NASA's SolarWind Anisotropes, see here Swan instrument, this colossal body shines 100 times brighter than 3I Atlas and streaks toward the sun with terrifying precision. Within days, telescopes captured its glowing tail, stretching wider than 5 full moons. But when scientists uncovered what powers it, they were left speechless, and you will be too when you hear it. Discovery of Swan R2. A new interstellar object, 100 times bigger and brighter than 3I Atlas, has been discovered. And, astonishingly, it is also headed directly toward the sun. This discovery sent immediate shockwaves through the scientific community because never before have 2 such objects arrived in such close succession. Astronomers first detected the new body on September 12, 2025, using the SolarWind Anisotropes, or SWAN, instrument aboard the SOHO spacecraft. SWAN's detection was not just routine background noise. It was clear, distinct, and impossible to dismiss. Only 2 days later, Australian comet expert Michael Mattiazzo captured a breathtaking image that confirmed its colossal presence. The photo revealed a tail stretching 2.5 degrees across the sky, the equivalent of about 5 full moons placed side by side. This shimmering plume completely dwarfed the faint, fragile tail of 3I Atlas. The International Astronomical Union wasted no time in assigning it an official designation, C2025 R2, better known as SWAN, after its initial discovery tag Swan-25b. The announcement landed like a thunderclap, reverberating not only in academic circles, but also across headlines worldwide. Just a few years earlier, 3I Atlas had raised eyebrows as a puzzling visitor. Now, the arrival of Swan R2, even larger and stranger, left astronomers facing harder, more urgent questions. What exactly is happening in our solar system? Why are we suddenly encountering objects of such abnormal scale and timing? Theories began to swirl almost immediately. Was this simply a natural comet, albeit an unusually massive one? Or was it something more deliberate? Perhaps a second probe, a relay station, or even a messenger from elsewhere in the galaxy. This first phase of discovery was only the beginning, but already the stage was set for one of the most unsettling astronomical mysteries of modern times. Uncanny timing and trajectories. When the first details of Swan R2 emerged, many wondered if it could somehow be linked to 3I Atlas. Avi Loeb and his team at Harvard speculated in the early days that perhaps Swan was a fragment from 3I Atlas, torn away from a larger icy body as it passed through deep space. Another possibility suggested was even more provocative, that it could be a scout craft released by some advanced mothership lurking in the distant reaches beyond our sight. But that theory quickly fell apart. Senior collaborator Peter Veris confirmed that the truth was even stranger. Swan and Atlas were not siblings at all. In fact, they had entirely different points of origin. Swan came shrieking in from Aquarius, while 3I Atlas had emerged from Sagittarius, close to the core of the Milky Way. These were bodies with utterly distinct trajectories. And yet, impossibly, both were converging on the sun almost simultaneously. The timing was too remarkable to dismiss as coincidence. Both would reach their closest approach to the sun, known as perihelion, in October 2025. On a cosmic scale, they would swing past nearly side by side, separated by only a slim margin. Calculations showed that Swan would pass within 150 million kilometers of the sun, while 3I Atlas would be only slightly farther, at 203 million kilometers. The gap between them was shrinking as their speeds shifted under gravitational influence. What truly unsettled astronomers was what came next. For a period of time, both objects would vanish completely behind the Sun, hidden from every telescope and observatory on Earth. What they might do out of sight, whether nothing at all or something far more extraordinary, remains an unanswered question hanging over the entire mystery. Strange composition of 3I Atlas. When 3I Atlas first came into focus, spectroscopic analysis revealed something astonishing. It was composed of a solid nickel body with no detectable traces of iron. This detail shocked metallurgists because such a composition is not known to exist naturally. In industry, nickel without iron is deliberately refined for advanced alloys, used in aerospace or specialized machinery. Yet here was a celestial body with precisely that unnatural blend, drifting into our solar system. The possibility of coincidence was vanishingly small. Even more astonishing were the readings from its core. Instruments recorded a nuclear reactor generating 10 gigawatts of power, 50 times the output of the Chernobyl disaster at its peak. For an interstellar visitor, that level of energy suggested function, not accident. Its tail provided the next clue. Rather than the chaotic spray of melting ice and dust typical of natural comets, Atlas's tail was tightly focused, emitting steady jets of carbon dioxide. The emissions were not random, but collimated, as if engineered to act like controlled exhaust. Then came the visual proof. As Atlas approached the Sun, observers noted its exhaust shifting dramatically from red to green. This was not just a chemical oddity. At the exact moment the color changed, its trajectory also shifted. Avi Loeb described the phenomenon as thrust-mix modulation, likening it to a spacecraft adjusting its burn as solar heating increased. The synchronized color shift and change of path seemed to confirm deliberate propulsion. By this stage, Atlas had transformed in the minds of scientists from a puzzling rock into something potentially artificial. Swan R2's power and shield. If 3I Atlas had already stretched the limits of what scientists thought possible, then Swan R2 completely shattered those boundaries. Loeb's team detected that Swan R2 was wrapped in a glowing silver plasma shield. This wasn't just a haze of gas or a reflection of sunlight. Instead, it behaved like a living electromagnetic barrier, bending the solar wind and deflecting radiation in ways no solid material could match. The shield pulsed with energy readings that were off the charts, suggesting advanced control over plasma physics. Visually, its tail dominated the night sky. Observers noted how its glow brightened and shifted to a crisp white-green as it neared perihelion, just as sensors picked up tiny thrust pulses. These were not random bursts, but carefully measured nudges, the unmistakable signs of a precision plasma steering system. Then came the most terrifying revelation: its core. Where 3I Atlas shocked scientists with a 10-gigawatt nuclear reactor, Swan R2 dwarfed it with an output exceeding 10,000 gigawatts every single second. Loeb compared its energy scale to the power released when two black holes collide, yet somehow contained within a single compact machine. In his words, Atlas had only been the scout. Swan R2 was the fortress, an incomprehensible nickel-cobalt vessel powered by a plasma heart far beyond human engineering. Cyclical return and ancient echoes. Just when astronomers thought the revelations about Swan R2 couldn't get any stranger, NASA and JPL analysis uncovered this colossal object was not on a one-time hyperbolic escape path like 3I Atlas. Instead, Swan R2 was on a bound orbit, one that brings it back to the Sun every 22,554 years. Such a cycle stretches far beyond the span of recorded history and into a time frame that almost dwarfs the entire story of human civilization. Loeb and his team argued that a 22,000-year loop would feel insignificant to an advanced civilization capable of near light-speed travel. Time dilation would shorten the journey for the travelers, turning what seems like eons to us into perhaps only months for them. In this view, Swan's return is not random. It is an appointment, part of a long-established cycle, older than every empire humanity has ever built. But the mystery deepened when archaeologists entered the discussion. Graham Hancock and others pointed out that the last time Swan R2 would have passed near the Sun coincided almost exactly with the end of the last ice age, a period marked by humanity's sudden leap into building monolithic structures and charting the stars. The suggestion was bold. Ancient cultures may have witnessed its blazing passage and encoded its cycle into their monuments. If true, this would mean Swan R2 is not just a scientific anomaly. It could be the very source of humanity's earliest astronomical myths. Purpose, signals, and human response. With Swan R2's staggering power and ancient orbital cycle revealed, the question shifted from "what is it?" to "why is it here?" Loeb and his colleagues suggested its passage could serve a practical purpose. Perhaps every 22,000 years, it returns to collect superheated plasma from the Sun as fuel, recalibrate enormous sensor networks hidden around the planets, or update long-forgotten relay stations buried in the asteroid belt, under icy poles, or even beneath planetary crusts. In this framework, what seems to humanity like a cosmic anomaly may simply be routine maintenance to a far older civilization. Another possibility raised chills. If 3I Atlas was the scout, then Swan R2 could be the heavy lifter, arriving to collect its data, retrieve its nuclear core, or even destroy it before humans get too close. Some speculated the two objects might not even belong to the same civilization, but instead represent rival factions converging on the same star for its energy. The Sun's magnetic fields, radiation, and gravity could be a vital resource, fueling wormhole stabilization or powering galaxy-spanning networks. Yet the timing raises a final disturbing question. Why now? Oumuamua in 2017, 3I Atlas soon after, and now Swan R2. Loeb suggested this sequence might not be random at all. For more than half a century, humanity has broadcast radio and television into the stars, along with radar signals and the Voyager golden records. By now, those signals have crossed dozens of nearby systems. Perhaps what we see is not coincidence, but a reply. A sequence of probes awakening after hearing our call. The solar blind spot problem. One of the most disturbing truths revealed by the arrival of 3I Atlas and Swan R2 is not just their nature, but how dangerously close humanity came to missing them entirely. Both objects emerged from what astronomers call the solar blind spot. This is a region of the sky directly aligned with the Sun's glare, where Earth-based telescopes are effectively blind. Even the most advanced observatories struggle to detect objects hidden against that overwhelming brightness. It's as if the Sun itself shields their approach, leaving us vulnerable to surprise encounters. History has already offered chilling reminders of this weakness. In February 2013, the Chelyabinsk meteor exploded high above Russia, releasing energy equivalent to several nuclear bombs and injuring over 1,000 people. That object, only about 20 meters across, had slipped in from the solar blind spot. If something so small could cause such damage, what chance would humanity have if a much larger object, let alone a technological probe like 3I Atlas or Swan R2, came straight toward Earth unnoticed. Planetary defense experts have long acknowledged this blind spot problem, but it has rarely been considered urgent. The arrival of interstellar visitors has changed that. Scientists now argue that our reliance on Earth-based telescopes leaves humanity dangerously exposed. Space-based observatories positioned away from the Sun, such as those stationed at Lagrange points, might provide a solution, but such projects remain underfunded. Swan R2's trajectory underlines the scale of the risk. If it had aimed for Earth instead of the Sun, our species might have had only days or hours of warning. The unsettling truth is that humanity still has no comprehensive defense system capable of stopping or redirecting such an object. In the face of interstellar visitors with unknown intentions, our best line of defense may be little more than luck. The silence of official agencies. Equally puzzling as the objects themselves is the reaction, or rather, the lack of reaction, from official space agencies and governments. NASA's public statements have framed both 3I Atlas and Swan R2 as objects of interest, emphasizing their scientific value while avoiding discussion of the anomalous data. The European Space Agency has released even less, reducing the arrivals to footnotes in minor press updates. For events that have no precedent in recorded history, the silence feels deafening. Some researchers argue this is intentional. By categorizing the objects as comets, agencies avoid triggering public panic or fueling speculation about extraterrestrial technology. History shows this is not new. For decades, United States officials dismissed unidentified aerial phenomena as weather balloons or optical illusions, only later acknowledging classified programs that had investigated them all along. If such a playbook exists for anomalies in Earth's atmosphere, it is not hard to imagine the same approach being applied to anomalies in space. Another explanation is more political. Acknowledging the possibility of non-natural interstellar probes would force governments to answer uncomfortable questions. Should global defense systems be mobilized? Should humanity attempt communication? Who speaks for Earth in such an encounter? By maintaining silence, responsibility can be avoided. Ironically, the lack of open discussion has only fueled suspicion. Independent astronomers, amateur sky watchers, and academic rebels like Avi Loeb have filled the vacuum, their findings circulating online with far more passion than official reports. To the public, the contrast is glaring. Breathtaking revelations from independent voices met with near total quiet from institutions built to study the cosmos. The Forgotten Visitors, Clues in Our Own Archives. While scientists focus on the data pouring in from Swan R2 and 3I Atlas, a few researchers have begun digging in a different direction, through history itself. Old observatory logs, indigenous star maps, and even naval records suggest these may not be the first interstellar anomalies to pass our skies. What if the signs were there all along, overlooked because no one knew what to look for? One startling clue comes from the 19th century. In 1843, astronomers documented the Great Comet of that year, describing a tail so vast it stretched across a third of the night sky. At the time, it was dismissed as a natural comet, albeit unusually large. Yet spectrographic readings taken decades later from archived observations hint at metallic elements that do not occur in ordinary comets. Could this have been an earlier probe, unnoticed for what it was? Ancient star lore adds another layer. The Aboriginal people of Australia tell of sky canoes that arrived with blazing tails, vanishing into the sun before returning generations later. Similarly, Mayan codices record cycles of star serpents, crossing the heavens with frightening regularity. These myths, once thought to be symbolic, suddenly take on new weight in light of Swan's 22,000-year orbit. Even more unsettling is the pattern emerging from modern military archives. Declassified United States Navy documents from the 1960s describe unknown luminous objects near solar conjunctions, bright visitors that appeared briefly before vanishing behind the sun. Though dismissed at the time as solar flares or lens artifacts, the timing now looks suspiciously like the hidden window Swan, and Atlas will soon enter. If true, this suggests humanity has encountered these visitors before, only without the technology to recognize them. Hidden messages in the signal noise. As astronomers studied Swan R2 and 3I Atlas, some turned their attention not to the objects themselves, but to the faint signals buried in the background static of space. Radio telescopes like FAST in China and the Allen Telescope Array in California began picking up unusual patterns whenever the probes were within range. At first, these were dismissed as interference. After all, Earth is constantly bathed in stray transmissions from satellites, radar, and deep space noise. But a closer look revealed something unsettling. The bursts seemed to repeat at regular intervals, encoded in tight frequency bands far narrower than natural cosmic sources usually produce. More intriguingly, the pulses appeared strongest when aligned with the object's trajectories, as though the signals were directional, broadcasts rather than random emissions. Some researchers even claimed the data carried a mathematical signature, repeating prime numbers, sequences often proposed in science fiction as the simplest universal hello. This discovery opened a new debate. Were these signals intentional, a form of communication, or simply the byproduct of whatever propulsion systems powered the objects? If deliberate, then the probes may not be passive machines, but active messengers, aware of their surroundings and perhaps aware of us. Skeptics countered quickly, arguing that confirmation bias could explain the excitement. Human brains are wired to find patterns, and in oceans of data, coincidences are inevitable. But the timing makes doubt harder to maintain. First Oumuamua, then Atlas, and now Swan R2, each coinciding with strange, unexplained radio anomalies picked up across multiple observatories. Let us know what you think below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mysteries that will leave you questioning everything.